Let's talk urinary calculi prevention today. Urinary calculi is also known as water belly or basically kidney stones, and that can develop in your bucks or your wethers. So we've got 2 bucks here, and it's a priority for me to make sure that we don't ever have to deal with urinary calculi. Basically what that is stones that, develop inside of them that make them unable to empty their bladder, and their bladder can actually kind of expand to the point of it being a very, very, very big problem, and it's not something that you ever want to have to deal with. The fix for that is to snip the pizzle, which is kind of what it sounds like, and not something that you ever want to do, and they don't ever want you to have to do it to them. So we like to make sure that we are taking every step that we can to help prevent that in them. So you don't want to give your bucks too much alfalfa. Alfalfa is going to help lead to an increased risk of urinary calculi. So the best kind of grass or hay you can give is either a coastal or Bermuda or Timothy or something like that. The biggest thing you want to remember is to have at least a 2-to-1 calcium-to-phosphorus ratio. Too much phosphorus is a really big trigger for urinary calculus, and phosphorus can be found in things like grain or wheats or anything like that. It's also important to limit the amount of alfalfa that they can get, because Aries is drinking. That's how you can reduce urinary calculi too. Having clean, fresh water all the time. That's right there. Good job, Atlas. He's helping. So seriously though, that is one thing. Making sure they're hydrated, having multiple sources of water that are always clean, and again, reducing their alfalfa intake because that can throw off their ratio of calcium to phosphorus. If you have a goat-specific goat mineral, it should have a higher amount of that calcium in there. Like this one says right here, it's high in calcium and trace minerals. But so having a goat-specific loose mineral is going to help a lot. Mineral blocks aren't great because they can't get enough that they need from licking it. I like to use them as a treat sometimes, but I always have loose minerals out in addition to that. Another thing that you always want to have on hand is this product, ammonium chloride. I have never had to use it, but I have it on hand because if anything ever were to come up, you can drench it and help to hopefully break up some of those stones so you don't have to, snip the pizzle and do anything like that. If we did have a situation where we did feed a lot of alfalfa in a period of time, or a lot of grain, or maybe they got into some grain and they shouldn't have, what we would do is sprinkle some of this on top of their food, and just a little bit. It's only like a very little bit. I think it's like probably just a tablespoon or 2, and you would mix that in with their feed, and that way they would get some of this, and it could help break up some of those stones before they cause a big issue. Urinary calculi is definitely not something you want to mess with. Another thing that you can do is if you are going to wether your boys, which is castrating them with the green Cheerio, wait until they're at least 3 to 4 months old so that they have proper time to develop, and that all those areas in there are getting big enough so that when you are weathering them, they're not immature and they still are fully, developing. That's another really big tip that can help prevent it. But yeah, biggest thing you can do here is prevention. Not too much grain, not too much alfalfa. Another thing is forage first. So anytime they're foraging, either, chewing on hay or chewing on some pasture, they're increasing their saliva, and that's also going to help create a barrier from the acid and help reduce those stones from forming. So that's it. We got some tips: fresh water, goat-specific mineral, 2-to-1 ratio of calcium to phosphorus at least, and just be mindful of it. Just always be mindful. But some signs that they might have that developing is if they're kicking up at their stomachs. You might see their hind legs kind of kicking up at their stomach, like their stomach is bothering them. You might see an incomplete stream or a dribble, or their belly might start even being kind of distended and bloated. So you want to really, really make sure that that's not a situation, because that's an emergency situation that you're going to need to address immediately. So far, we haven't had that issue, and we hope we never do. Right, boys?